Hey, this is Irvin Griffin along with TheNatureGirl30, and I pulled up a video that she wanted to look at just out of interest that kind of made her rant for a bit in the Mount Atlantis thing. And then I asked her what was it about. So I looked at a little bit. Well, I listened to her rather. She actually is the one that looked at it. And I was like, I'll tell you what it was about. It was basically this young brother talking about how the Street Profits are done after SmackDown this past Friday night, where they lost the tag team championship match. But it was to the freaking Bloodline. Now, we'll be the first to admit, except for Jacob Fatu, there ain't really nobody worth a crap in the Bloodline, at least not to me and her. But the fact is, they've been around for 4 years. It's a 4-year angle. And this is like not only just a faction, this is actually a big dynasty. This isn't like, say, the Four Horsemen or even the NWO or DX or the New Day, or if I reach back to Tandem, to groups that were more than two people in the past, the Fabulous Freebirds. This isn't like them. This is an actual real lineage.
Yeah.
Lineage. Now, I can respect where the young brothers come from. Y'all know my background.
Well,
I
guess we might as well give him credit because it came from Black Couch Booking. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to give him credit for the video. You know, we're not going to insult you because you have your own opinion. But coming from some individuals that came from the 80s and in that era where there wasn't many black wrestlers or black women wrestlers, we have a different perspective.
Yeah, and it was way worse back then.
Yeah.
It was way worse. I mean, the ones that are hollering about Bobby Lashley and, you know, how Triple H, lack of handling him, or even Tony Khan in AEW about Swerve Strickland. Let me tell you, there was a time you wouldn't have even saw a black person near a world championship. Not back then. Now, and to me, when you say stuff like this, you disrespect the efforts of Bobo Brazil, because there is an uncredited NWA World Title win from the 40s and 50s that he actually had. That's only been brought up in recent years. The only thing I wished is that some of these fools would have brought it up while the man was still living. I think he died back in the 2000s somewhere. He was pretty old. He was pretty old when he passed away. But there's Bobo Brazil. I think in a way, and I don't think they intentionally do it, but in a backhanded way, you unintentionally disrespect Bobo Brazil. You disrespect Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson. They were the first black world tag team champions anywhere, and it was at WWE. Yeah, WWE. And then you had the second pair of black tag team champions in the NWA/WCW in the Team of Doom with Ron Simmons and the late Butch Reed. And of course, Ron Simmons went on to be the first recognized world heavyweight champion. Like I said, you had the Bobo Brazil. Although some would argue Iceman King Parsons, who was the first black world class heavyweight champion. And some did argue it was a world title. World class was, of course, the Von Erich territory.
But if you want to stick to just modern, like modern day, you're insulting the New Day.
Yeah.
Because remember, the New Day fought hard with their gimmick. Their gimmick was laughable to a lot of black people. They
God.
probably called them every name.
And I'll just go ahead and say it. And this is from which I threw away, and I'm so glad I threw it away because, my life was a whole lot more, lot less stressful. And she heard a few of my rants back when we were just friends.
Yeah.
She heard quite a few of my rants, but as time went on, I was like, this ain't worth it. Because when I really look at my background, not saying that nobody black ever helped me or ever was there for me, there was. But being that I'm from Southern West Virginia, I mean, if I had to be truly honest, I think there's been just as many white, if not more, that were there for me as there was, or even more so than black folks. But I'm being honest. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not Myron Gaines.
Yeah.
I'm not Tommy Sotomayor. So don't think I'm going on that rant. You'll never hear me on here put down black and white people as a whole. I'm just telling certain aspects.
Okay.
But get back to wrestling. Yeah, you'll probably see that part. Make a rant try to get this video blocked up, bite me. But anyway, but getting back to wrestling, you disrespect the New Day, you disrespect Bianca Belair.
And she's currently in a tag team with Jade Cargill.
Yeah, a 3-person team if you count Naomi.
Well, technically that was just for one night. That wasn't like them actually being a group. Naomi is still a single star.
Yeah, but she does pop up with them from time to time.
She does.
You disrespect Naomi, who's had, SmackDown Women's Championship, and of course when she wrestled under her real name, Trinity Fatu, she had that good run as TNA Impact champion. Then yeah, Jade Cargill, regardless of what I think of her actual skill level.
Oh gosh, I've said enough bad about Jade.
Yeah, she
Y'all
has.
saw my video. If you guys have seen my channel, y'all know I have talked a lot of smack about Jade, and I've had pretty much good reason to. But
regardless, you disrespect her TBS title run and her women's tag team championship with Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair, I mean, pretty much speaks for herself. One of the few women to never win the NXT championship that, despite that, went on to success. Because most of the time, women that won the NXT title usually go on to pretty good success on the main roster. She's one of the few, other than Becky Lynch, that has never won that title, but did go on. Other than Becky Lynch, and I think Alexa Bliss. Oh no, actually, one of the current women's champions, Liv Morgan. I think, but it's still a small number.
But I'll say, when it comes to Jade, my status is not, my whole way of thinking when it comes to her has not changed. But I will give credit where credit is due. But I digress on that.
Yeah.
When it comes to the video itself, the one thing that bothered me is that you see a lot of, and there's nothing wrong with being pro-black. Nothing wrong at all. Nothing wrong with wanting to see black people succeed. Nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to black wrestlers, and you have black wrestling fans, sometimes they get caught in their feelings thinking that it's discrimination, it's racism, it's this and that. But you got to see the facts. When it came to the Street Profits, the first time they got the NXT titles, they didn't do much with them. They weren't booked very well. They were just on there on the main roster saying, "Hey, we're here promoting a drink." And how many times they promote Pizza Hut or Domino's or whatever?
They were
basically props.
They were booked as clowns.
That I understand, because I got pissed off. And I even put a lot of rants on my channel about them because they were treated like clowns and acted like clowns. And Bianca Belair actually warned them not to do that.
Yeah, both probably in real life too, but in character.
She warned both Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins that you need to start taking your opponents seriously and stop acting like clowns. She said that straight up, and this is when she was champion. The thing is that they improved over time. It took years. Angelo Dawkins, let's be real, I have talked a lot of crap about him.
Yeah,
and mainly because of the fact he didn't have a lot of personality, he didn't have any charisma, he couldn't do a promo to save his life. He was kind of like an athlete trying to read a teleprompter, but didn't know how to read. That's kind of how it was with him. But he has improved greatly over the years. Montez Ford has always been that star. We know that. But he was incredibly arrogant. And not only that, he did high-flying moves that damn near killed him. The only time that they got their crap together was when they were with Bobby Lashley. And Bobby Lashley made him into something. Yeah, he's not there now. And yeah, they got B-Fab, and let's be real, she's not a good wrestler. They really have nothing to do with her, and they have no reason to have her there except for being, I'm hoping they make her a manager and not a valet. It will benefit her. It'll benefit the group. It'll make her into something. Because honestly, she's just there. But that's just my opinion on that. But when it comes to Street Profits, they are not done. They're far from it. They're probably going to have to reinvent themselves, probably be a little bit more serious. But they're a legit tag team. The biggest issue, and I do agree with you on your video, that WWE do not like tag teams because they keep splitting them up.
Yeah,
I
in
agree,
general.
100%.
In general. It ain't just Street Profits because they black. They do that with a lot of tag teams.
Even with the women tag teams, they just throw Frankenstein together and pray that they work. And the ones that actually do work, they break them up. Yeah. I mean, can we say the Iconics? Probably one of the most iconic group that actually got split up that nobody wanted split up.
Mm-hmm. Or Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, two people they just slapped together, but to give credit, it did work.
It kind of brought a lot of Nikki. It benefited her than Alexa, but they weren't tag teams from the beginning. When you have a tag team group from the beginning and you break them up, that chemistry is gone. And when they're doing that for the New Day, let's be honest, the New Day has been there, done that, got the t-shirt over 1,000 times. You had Kofi Kingston getting a championship run when you had the backing of the WWE Universe. You had them be tag team champions multiple times. Not just Kofi and Xavier Woods, but also Kofi and Big E. Everybody's had gold. And forget that Big E has also had a championship run. I think what he had, the IC belt?
Well, he had the IC title, and he also had, of course, the world title. In fact, made small history in his own right, because not only did he cash in on Bobby Lashley, it was one of the rare times, in fact, maybe the first time, that you had two black men going for the WWE World Championship. And I myself, coming from the 80s, growing up in the 80s as a wrestling fan, never thought I would see that. Yeah. I would have been cool with just a black guy winning the world title. But to see two black guys, and keep in mind, this was in the same year that earlier that year, Mercedes Moné, when she was known as Sasha Banks, and Bianca Belair had their match for the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania 37. It was in that same year, earlier that year. So that was the first time two black women. Yeah, I mean, say what you want. WWE, compared to when I grew up, WWE has improved a lot, and
leaps and bounds better.
And not to get off the topic, but you really want chocolate in WWE? Hey, support NXT, because there's rounds of it down there.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that they even had this in the history books, that when you had and that this is when he was actually down there, when you had gosh, how could I forget his name? Carmelo Hayes. Yeah. When you had Carmelo Hayes versus Trick Williams.
Yeah.
Two African American men in a main event championship match.
Well, actually, it was
just a match.
It was basically a grudge. It was basically a big grudge match, but it was the main event.
It wasn't a championship match, but it was a grudge match, and it was the main event, and there was two black men main eventing. That is a historical moment. Is it sad? That's a historical moment. Okay, I can agree in a small way. It is, but you can't just put anybody there. Remember, WWE at the end of the day is a business. They are a business. They have to make money in order to make these promotions work, in order to get people to give money to them. That's how it was in the 80s. They couldn't just throw anyone out there. They had to have a star.
And for those of you that's going to argue, and I'm sure there's going to be somebody in the comment section that's going to argue, because it happened in our last video when we was talking about MVP's claim against Triple H. For those of you to say that, think about that mindset you're doing, and take a look at Disney, particularly when it comes to Star Wars and Marvel, and they tried to appeal to other groups or try to push an agenda of message instead of pushing entertainment to make money. Star Wars is all but dead. Marvel was near dead, and they got a long way to go to revive that. Though I have to admit, Deadpool and Wolverine is a good start. I mean, and it's to the point where even Kevin Feige allegedly even said, look, we tried going down this woke thing and this all women thing. It didn't work.
He has a valid point. But think about it this way. Would you rather have a champion? I'm going back to wrestling. Would you rather have a champion that is a great wrestler, have great promo skills, have great in-ring chemistry with their opponents, can challenge their opponents and bring up their A game, who happens to be black? Or do you just want a black man that does all those things? What I mean is, you're going to focus so much on him being black, you're going to ignore his skills. You're going to ignore who he is and what he's made of.
If that's the case, you might as well add one of our guys that we talked to, Prince GMO. I'm sure he'll laugh at this comment. If that's the case, you might as well make almost the WWE Universal World Champion.
Almost,
then,
but not quite.
you might as well have almost beat Cody Rhodes if all you want is somebody black.
Exactly. And yeah, I highly agree with you about Cody. We all do. Everybody in Club Atlantis does not believe that Cody should be the top dude.
No.
We all believe it shouldn't be.
Yeah, of course, if Prince had his way, the title would still be on Roman, but we're all like, no.
Yeah.
It had been past time for him to lose. But we all agree it should not have been Cody Rhodes.
It shouldn't have been Cody. It all depends on how it was written. And we've made the agreement on that. And I do respect that. I do understand that completely. But going back to another example for NXT, and I actually put this in the Club Atlantis chat, but a lot more colorful words, and I'm going to try to make it a PG here just to be nice. But I actually mentioned Obafemi, who happens to be the North American champion at this moment. We call him the Black Brock Lesnar. He pretty much is. That guy can rip folks apart without even breaking a sweat. The one guy that came close was Otis, but he didn't really succeed. But then you got Wesley that comes on there whining, complaining, and crying, and he couldn't beat Obafemi. He's gonna quit. This is the second time that clown said he was going to quit. And honestly, everybody in the WWE universe, even me, who saw the match, even Irvin got it. It's Obafemi.
Exactly. Yeah, Black Van Vader.
He's pretty much the Black Van Vader.
Yeah, my nod to the late Leon White, who was Big Van Vader back in the 90s. Rest in peace. But yeah, that's what Obafemi kind of reminds me of. I call him, my nickname for him is Black Van Vader.
I mean, in my opinion, he's more like Brock Lesnar because he's more calculated on how he's going to tear you apart. But the guy is an incredible threat. No one could beat him. Not anyone could beat him. I don't even think Trick Williams could. It probably would take everything in his arsenal to take him down.
Yeah, and that's the reason. But both the Brock Lesnar and the Big Van Vader comparisons are valid, because to beat Obafemi, it's probably gonna take everything you got and then some. Like Brock, let's look at the Brock Lesnar comparison. It took it a lit. I mean, think about the people that did beat him for the championship. It took, in the early days, it took the Big Show with the help of Brock's own manager Paul Heyman with a steel chair, choke slam on a steel chair to beat him. Another occasion, it took an Olympic champion by the name of Kurt Angle to take down Brock. On another occasion, it took the combined effort of Eddie Guerrero and his lying, cheating, and stealing, along with Goldberg interfered to beat Brock. Yeah, exactly.
We got it. We got the point. But does that bring down his worth because he took that L? No. The same exact thing with the Street Profits. Remember, at WrestleMania 40, was probably the most aggressive I have seen them be. Mm-hmm. And I think they won that match.
Yeah, they did. Street Profits and Bobby Lashley versus Killer Cross and the Authors of Pain.
Yeah,
with Scarlett Bordeaux.
The Final Testament, I think.
Yeah, the final test.
It was like the final testament.
Yeah, and I still call Karrion Kross Killer Kross. Killer Kross sounds so much cooler. His old name from TNA.
Called themselves the Almighty Prophets. That's just me. I think they should have called themselves the Almighty Prophets, but hey, that's just me. But other than that, that was the first time in a very long time that I have seen them focus on where they need to do and where they need to go. And yeah, B-Fab, I was a little impressed with her. The fact that she not only took a bump, the fact that she pretty much clocked she clocked old girl.
The spots that she took, the spots that she took along with Scarlett Bordeaux, who Scarlett Bordeaux was not a bad wrestler.
Actually, she is a pretty good wrestler, even though
they don't use her that way, but she actually was not a bad wrestler.
Well, I've seen her in a few matches. She's actually been in a few matches, but she's not that bad of a wrestler. She's kind of average, but she's not bad. She actually can hold her own. Even though we know B-Fab can't, and it's been proven that she can't.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she helped B-Fab with some of them bumps.
I think she actually made B-Fab look good. But I digress on that. But the thing is that the Street Profits was the most serious that they ever were. And honestly, I don't think it's over for them. I don't think it's even close to being over for them. They took an L, but who did they take an L against? And this is the important thing. That I hope that if you are watching this, or anybody that knows his channel is watching this, I want everybody to understand. Just because you take an L does not mean that you are down and out. It depends on who you lose to. They lost to the Bloodline. The Bloodline is a freaking Samoan dynasty. They're not just a faction. They are a dynasty. They have years and decades and decades and decades of lineage that is meaningful. They have a family tree that has so many champions on it. It's not funny. When The Rock busted out that family tree, he damn near meant it. Not damn near, he did mean it. He meant it 100%. It makes sense for them to have gold because of who they are, because of who their lineage is. And also remember, the Bloodline was a faction that dominated WWE for 4 years. That is unheard of in modern day. You have to have championship belts around your waist to show who you are as a person, not just as a champion, but as where you came from. The Bloodline needs championships. Now, if it came to The Rock just being by himself before he became the final boss, if it was him by himself and he was wrestling against, let's just throw somebody out there. Let's just say Cody didn't have a title. Let's just say that CM Punk went up against the Bloodline instead of Cody. And let's just say he had beef against Cody because Cody interfered in something and kind of hurt his feelings or whatever. Now, when The Rock actually faces Cody, I would be fine if it doesn't go against anything. If Cody, let's say Cody won the IC Championship and they didn't put it on the line, I'm fine with that. If they put the world title, let's say that he took the title from Seth Rollins and he had the world title around his waist. If he didn't have a match before the world title, I would get it because The Rock don't need it. He's been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and it's just him. But with him being the final boss, teamed up with the Bloodline far surpassed him. So he would have to have a championship to cement who he is as a final boss. I get that. I get that part. But the fact that Street Profits lost against the Bloodline's tag team, which I think was Tungaloa and Tamatonga, they didn't take an L. It's not they did take an L, but it's not over for them. It didn't end because of who they faced.
Yeah.
And that match was really good. It was not a squash match. If it was a squash match, I get you. But it was not a squash match at all. It was a good match. They held their own, but they lost. And they lost to the Bloodline.
Plus the Bloodline's hot right now. If you were to take those belts off the Bloodline and give it to the Street Profits, other than the Bloodline, who they gonna go against?
Not to mention it wouldn't be taken seriously because the Street Profits were not elevated as high as they need to be a credible threat. So think about it this way. If they actually did take it from the Bloodline, what sense would that make? Do you think the WWE Universe would care?
This isn't like when Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens went up against the Usos for the tag belts at WrestleMania. Both men, referring to Zayn and Owens, had history with the Bloodline. Of course, Sami Zayn, the most recent history, because he was an honorary member of them. Kevin Owens had a history going back almost 2 years.
And also they had history with each other for having beef.
Yeah, both as friends, but also
enemies.
I mean, it was Sami Zayn that cost Kevin Owens' team the win at War Games when he basically gave him the Shuriken uppercut to the Jewels, along with a haluva kick, costing them the match. So
it had a lot more meaning when you saw Shuriken uppercut, but when you had Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens finally squash their differences and be friends again to take down the Usos, which has been plaguing the WWE for almost 4 years. Actually, at the time, it was 3. It has a lot more meaning to it. That's why everybody was in tears when they won. Let's be honest, WrestleMania 39 was almost perfect for the first night alone. And that was the best finish ever because of how they built it. What sense would it make for the Street Profits to take down the Bloodline without a proper build? The fans would not be behind them. Maybe a small amount of fans would, but the universe was, I'm sorry, it's a little bit more than just the casual fans.
And plus, look at it didn't totally take the Street Profits because look who the Bloodline won, but look at how it ended. They needed the help of the guy that, quite frankly, I would be more scared of than Solo or even one of the targets, Jacob Fatu, with a medical boot on and all, jacked up.
You gotta remember, they got 3 people.
Yeah, they got the Samoan werewolf at the ringside, which, quite frankly, he's practically 2 people.
And not to mention that he's now the enforcer to Solo Sikoa. So Solo Sikoa is going to do everything he can to keep that title. Who's going to break out? Jacob Fatu. So to be honest with you, there was not really any way that the Street Profits were going to win clean here. There was going to be some dirty shenanigans. They would need some extra help in order to beat them. And you got to do that with the Bloodline because these people have been pushed for 4 years. And they're going to actually try to extend it as far as they can. It wouldn't make any sense for the Street Profits to actually...
Not to mention, after the match, it wasn't just the Street Profits got laid out. When DIY came out, the fight the Bloodline after the match, they got laid out too. Yeah. Dude, now I can see your argument, bruh. If, let's say, they would have got laid out, let's say DIY came out, because that's almost like the white savior complex. But that didn't happen there either, because they got laid out too. So
I can't really
you can't say that.
I can't really say the white savior complex.
Yeah, well, I am. I'm going ahead and say that.
I mean, yeah, you're gonna say that, but I'm not, because I honestly have watched their whole the whole DIY, the whole journey that they took, especially against the Revival.
Real heavy again in NXT.
I've only
seen parts of that story. I did watch the DIY versus the Revival match. That was definitely classic tag team wrestling.
I honestly saw from the beginning all the way to when they faced the Revival, and even beyond that. And these guys have taken so many L's but did not stop trying.
Yeah, most of mine has been watching them against each other individually.
And not to mention they actually feuded against each other, and of course Ciampa ended up becoming a villain. But despite all that, DIY fought hard to get to where they were. They took a few L's, but they kept trying. The Revival beat them several times, but they kept going and kept fighting, and they got there. I'm not gonna lie, I cried when they won. That was probably the best build I've ever seen in my life for a tag team. I haven't seen tag team wrestling like that since the 80s. Hell, since Starrcade or any type of old school wrestling that me and Irvin has watched. And I love tag team tournaments. And honestly, this was around the time we watched a lot of them.
Yeah.
So seeing that in modern day not only just brings back the fan in me as a kid, but it just shows how much that Triple H understood the build to this. And it just worked. It worked so well to where that when I saw them win, I cried a bit. I ain't ashamed. But in this case with the Street Profits, it's not over. No. It's not over. By a long shot, it's not over. And I think Montez has enough He has enough charisma as well as enough, I won't say pride, but I will say that he's not going to give up. He has a lot of courage. He has a lot of endurance. Both him and Angelo Dawkins, even though they tried to break him up a few times, which made no sense, these guys have great chemistry. And I think that Tripp sees that. Because if he didn't see that, he'll try to break him up, like, instantly. But they have a chemistry that works. I don't think it's over because of who they lost against. They lost against the Bloodline, which means that they didn't get a horrible L. Like, if it was like A-Town Down.
Yeah, A-Town Down Under. Or,
if it was A-Town Down Under, or if it was Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews, then yeah, I'll be like,
yeah. Let me tell you, say that it's over. I'll be like, you should have seen some of the stuff I saw. I saw a journeyman black wrestler named Rocky King, who was DC3, basically be the token black guy for the fabulous Freebirds back in WCW. I watched Roddy Piper, a legend in professional wrestling, come down, half
blackface.
Yeah, half blackface to wrestle Bad News Brown. Bad News Brown should have shot on Roddy Piper. And this is coming from a guy that actually was a fan of Roddy Piper. But even I was like, Bad News should just break kayfabe and beat
we can go earlier than that. We can go a bit modern with the Attitude Era. Y'all remember when DX decided to dress up as a Nation of Domination?
Ooh.
Y'all remember the black face that X had?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The thing is, me and my stepbro, we was all DX fans at the time. Well, against the Nation, except for The Rock, because we still dug The Rock. But we was all that. But they did that. Oh, we totally turned against DX. Every time DX went up against the Nation, we would see the Nation of Domination beat the hell out of him after that.
The fact that you had X-Pac in dark. He had like the darkest of black paint. And I think he was supposed to be Mark Henry.
And that was the one that really offended black fans and even some white fans.
But even Triple H, who tried to paint his face to be like The Rock. Yeah, Triple H had blackface too. It's just his was a little lighter.
Yeah, but he didn't go. But you could tell unless you looked real close with him.
Oh no, you can tell.
No, you couldn't tell unless you really looked real close.
You could tell.
But X-Pac, it was obvious.
It was completely obvious. It was terrible. And yeah, they pissed some black fans off, but it was kind of enough for them to kind of not bring that segment up.
Yeah, they rarely
happened. You didn't see it again.
Yeah, they rarely bring it up now.
They rarely bring it up now, but it happened. There was a lot of crazy things that happened during the Attitude Era, and even the whole Booker T and Triple H segment. We cannot say that was not racist. That was racist.
Don't get me started on that.
No.
Don't get me started
but
on that.
I can't necessarily get too angry. I'm more looking side-eye at Booker T because he's the one that greenlit it.
Yeah, but even still, the idea should have never even been thought of in the first place.
We can go down a rabbit hole of awful things that has happened in WWE over the years. But the whole point is that they came a long way since then. And when it comes to actually having black champions, you see them more prominent than they ever had in our era.
Yeah.
And we can't say the Street Profits are done. They're not done. They just gotta regroup.
Yeah, and going back to the Triple H Booker T, when I found out recently, because I always thought it was always Vince and this and that, found out recently Vince actually originally wanted Booker T to beat Triple H at WrestleMania 19. That it may have been, I'm covering my behind here, may have been Triple H that convinced him to retain the title, which was stupid. I'm sort of like wrestling with regret when he brought up that said, he was like, I don't necessarily mind that the whole racial thing was part of that angle, provided that the guy saying it should have lost.
Yeah.
Should have lost.
Usually when you hear something like that, it's supposed to lead to somewhere. And there could be a chance that there was a lot of politics behind the scenes, and it changed everything.
Yeah, because
remember how slow the Triple H was crawling to get to Booker T, and how long it felt like forever, and they finally covered him 1, 2, 3 without him kicking out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. You had Cactus Jack get pedigree, and he manages to kick out, and Triple H covered him immediately in the street fight from the Royal Rumble 2000. Booker T was laid out with the pedigree for almost a minute before Triple H finally covered him, and he gets the 3 count. No, I'm sorry. If it takes that long, no, he should have to hit you a second time to get the win. Now, I still would have been mad if Booker T would have lost, but had Triple H covered him, Booker T kicked out, and then Triple H had to scramble, get up, give him the pedigree again, second time, and then immediately cover him for the 3 count, I still would have been mad, but at least it would have made sense. At least it would have made sense. But yeah, that one still sticks in my craw.
There were a lot of mistakes. There were a lot of mistakes that were made back in the day.
That one still sticks in my craw. And now, had this been Kofi Kingston, Brock Lesnar, that one sticks in my craw. Not because Kofi lost to Brock. It was how. Because we all knew Kofi was going to lose to Brock. We all knew. It was the way they did it, though, that always ticked me off.
Honestly, I thought that was pathetic. I thought it was terrible of how it happened. But then I realized that Kofi's not really fighting for it. He's not fighting to get it back. He's not fighting to go and challenge for the championship again. I think he just wanted to have a taste, but didn't really want to be at the mountaintop. And that's why it doesn't bother me as much, because you can tell that he's happy-go-lucky to say he was a champion instead of just still chasing for it. And I don't think Kofi wanted it. That's just me. And that's why I'm not that upset about it, because it just seems like that Kofi just kind of like happy. He's happy to even be nominated, like that type of guy. Even though he got the championship for a short time, he got it.
Yeah, still.
That's just how he
still a moment that lives in my heart, which
that's a moment that lives in infamy with a lot of black fans.
Infamy? No. The moment when he won the title.
No, like when he lost it.
No.
That's
I'm referring to when he won it. That one still lives in my heart.
Oh, gosh.
That one still.
I guess we're going to have our own differences about that, because I think the whole build to it was pathetic. But that's just that's me.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. But the moment itself, yes. And especially like celebrating with his kids.
That's the one time that he almost cried. He has a soft spot for children. And I think it was really sweet that he celebrated with his family in the ring. I just think it was a pathetic build. But that's just me personally. I don't want to poo-poo on anybody's parade. But I guess the overall point is that the Street Profits, it's not over. It's not because, in my opinion, I don't think it was any racism here, any prejudice or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just because the bloodline is really hot right now. And they're money makers. And you have to push the money makers in order to get more money. And not only that, they're a dynasty. And there's a lot of segments, a lot of extensions that are added into it. Roman Reigns is going to probably come back and try to get the other people together. And let's be honest, their story right now is far more interesting, with Roman being on the sidelines, him finally coming back, taking down Solo, but then got taken out by Jacob. So in other words, Roman Reigns is going to get the band back together. He's going to get the Usos somehow. Both of them. Both Jimmy and Jay. Once Jimmy gets healed or whatever's going on with him, he's been out for a while. But once you get the Usos back together, he's going to probably get Sammy to come back and help him. And then it's also going to be a wild card, but he's going to get the final boss to help him, or Cody Rhodes. And there's a good chance that Cody Rhodes is probably going to help him, which in my opinion will be the worst mistake ever, because you have been pushing this guy for ending his story for how many years, only for him to help his own enemy?
Not to mention, although it would make for a good deal, he gets in there and decides to help, and Cody goes Homelander.
He wants to go heel, but they won't let him. He's in the Cena bubble right now. Just like how Cena can never go heel, he can't go heel now.
The Rock would actually be the one to make the most sense. In fact, it wouldn't be surprised if they make him. He.
Yeah.